Did you know that Max Verstappen was furious with his team after the Hungarian GP? A controversial pit stop, no grip, and radios at their limit, it all exploded in just a few laps. Before we continue, tell me in the comments, do you think Red Bull is starting to lose its way? What happened in Hungary that made Verstappen say, "Nothing worked this weekend"? Stay until the end, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. In this video, we'll review what happened at the 2025 Hungarian GP, with a special focus on Max Verstappen's radios being on, his criticisms of the team, and what this means for Red Bull's immediate future. The 2025 Hungarian Grand Prix wasn't just another difficult Sunday for Max Verstappen. It was a day that exposed structural flaws in the RB21's performance and revealed a worrying disconnect between driver and team. What seemed like just another tricky track on the calendar ended up being an emotional turning point for one of the most dominant drivers in recent years. Max started the race from 8th position, an unusual position for someone accustomed to fighting at the front of the field. The qualifying result was a clear symptom: the car wasn't responding. Throughout Saturday's session, the Dutchman complained of a lack of grip in the corners, both on entry and exit. Neither last-minute adjustments nor specific engine maps managed to stabilize the car's behavior on a circuit where aerodynamics is everything. Hungary has always been a demanding track. The Hungaroring combines technical, medium, and low-speed corners with extremely high thermal demands. Track temperatures soared over the weekend, putting even more strain on the tires, brakes, and, especially, the car's overall balance. For Verstappen, the aerodynamic package introduced by Red Bull wasn't enough to counter these extreme conditions. From the start, Max faced not only traffic but also a machine that seemed to refuse to cooperate. While other drivers found pace on long runs, he was forced to constantly correct, battling a car that, in his own words, had no grip front or rear. The situation soon deteriorated. The front tires were showing signs of premature wear and overheating in the rear limited traction at every corner exit. But the most striking thing wasn't just the on-track performance. It was the tension that began to filter through the team radios. Verstappen had been visibly uncomfortable since Saturday, but at the start of Sunday's race, his tone changed from concern to open frustration. The strategic choice of hard tires at the first stop, made early, left him trapped behind slower cars with no room for maneuver. The result: loss of pace, loss of key positions, and a growing feeling of helplessness. Hungary offered no easy overtaking opportunities. On a layout where the track is narrow and the DRS zones are not as effective, any strategic miscalculation is costly. And that's exactly what happened. Red Bull not only couldn't make progress with its star driver, but also couldn't find quick responses from the pit wall to turn things around. The car, the weather, the traffic, and the strategy combined in a perfect storm that left Verstappen feeling unsettled. The message was clear: this wasn't just another weekend. It was a wake-up call. Because when a driver like Max, so meticulous and competitive, appears so distressed on the radio, something deeper is happening. Max Verstappen's frustration wasn't a momentary reaction. It was an accumulation of small strategic and technical flaws that exploded, lap after lap, in radio messages that left very little to interpretation. What is normally a controlled and professional channel between driver and engineers became a tense space this time, where the language, tone, and urgency reflected an emotional rift with the team's performance throughout the weekend. It all started with a strategic decision that Max didn't hesitate to call a serious mistake. Red Bull called him into the pits early to mount the hard tire, seeking to anticipate potential undercuts. But in Hungary, with heavy traffic and extremely flat race pace, that strategy backfired. From his first lap on the hard tires, Verstappen made it clear on the radio: it was a terrible idea. He didn't say it with hesitation. He said it with a mixture of indignation and resignation. These kinds of statements aren't common for Verstappen, at least not in public. But when a driver is caught in traffic with no pace, no ability to attack, and no options from the pit wall, emotions run high. And that's exactly what was heard. The Dutchman, accustomed to having control over every detail of the race, found himself completely neutralized, and his frustration translated into a dry, direct, unfiltered tone. As the race progressed, technical complaints began to blend with tactical ones. Verstappen, didn't limit himself to talking about the tire or the traffic. He went deeper. "I have no grip either front or rear," he said over the radio at a key moment. And he went further. He added that they had tried different settings throughout the weekend and none had worked. He wasn't just pointing the finger at Sunday. He was talking about a failure from free practice to the race. A structural failure. At the same time, tensions increased when contact with Lewis Hamilton occurred. The maneuver was pinpoint and ended up being deemed legal by race control, but Verstappen's interpretation was different. "I positioned myself. He moved during braking." That phrase, beyond the technical aspects, reveals a sense of injustice. Max felt that even the most extreme maneuvers weren't going his way. The implicit message was clear. Neither the car, nor the strategy, nor the circumstances were allowing him to compete as he wanted. The most symbolic moment, however, came in the final laps. When Laurent Mekies, a key member of Red Bull's technical staff, told him over the radio, "I'm sorry, Max, we didn't give you the car you deserved." He did so in an attempt to close the race with some empathy. But Verstappen's response was cold, sharp, and laced with disappointment. "Thanks for trying, but nothing worked out." There was no euphoria, no relief, just a bitter and direct conclusion. The final phrase wasn't just a response to the present. It was also a veiled criticism of the process, the car, and the team's overall approach. Radio calls, when analyzed coldly, reveal more than any official statement. They are unedited, unfiltered. They are the raw reflection of what a driver feels in the heat of competition. And in this case, what Verstappen felt was frustration, helplessness, and the feeling that he had missed a key opportunity in a season that doesn't allow for mistakes. And if the tension was evident on the radio, the next question is inevitable. How is Red Bull responding internally to this pressure? And what is Max Verstappen saying beyond the race communication channel? When a team like Red Bull suffers a drop in performance, words carry weight. Every statement, every nuance, every pause in the interviews afterward can reveal the true state of a team beyond what is seen on the track. In the case of the 2025 Hungarian Grand Prix, the messages were clear, but also charged with contained tension. There were no euphemisms, no media shields. There was assumed responsibility, disappointment, and also a hint of resignation. Laurent Mekies, a key figure within the team, spoke after the race and did not shy away from the mistakes. His statement was forceful. "I'm sorry, Max, we didn't give you the car you deserved." It wasn't an excuse. It was a direct acknowledgement that something had gone wrong from the beginning of the weekend. Such statements are unusual within a team that, historically, has protected its technical processes. But this time there was nothing to hide. The lack of performance was evident, and Mekies made no attempt to disguise it. The problem, as he explained, wasn't just the strategy. It was something deeper. In his words, there was a lack of basic performance. And that's serious, because when a team like Red Bull publicly acknowledges that its car wasn't up to par in fundamental aspects like grip, traction, and balance, what it's really saying is that the problem wasn't momentary but structural. A bad pit stop or a poorly chosen tire can be corrected. A lack of basic performance requires weeks, even months of work. In his subsequent statements, the Dutchman was clear. Nothing worked this weekend. It's that simple. No laps. And in an even more striking phrase, he added, "Sometimes I wish it would rain, but even that wouldn't change much." That last line says it all. When a driver starts wishing for unpredictable conditions to change his fortunes, it's because he feels the problem won't be solved with minor adjustments. He's asking for a profound change because he doesn't see immediate solutions with the current package. Internally, Red Bull knows that time is running out. The gap in the championship is widening. Verstappen is third, yes, but more than 100 points behind the leader, Oscar Piastri. And although he maintains a margin over George Russell, the truth is that this gap guarantees nothing if the car's performance doesn't improve in the coming races. Therefore, the pressure now shifts to the engineers, the simulators, and the technical development team, which must correct the errors of Hungary before they are repeated on circuits with similar characteristics. Red Bull is betting on an aerodynamic package that has yet to show any clear signs of effectiveness. And that's where the psychological dimension of the issue comes in. Because if the driver loses confidence in the car and the team begins to doubt its immediate response capacity, the relationship becomes strained. Not to the point of a rupture, but enough to create internal rifts that, in such a tight championship, can mean the difference between fighting for the title or defending third place. What happened at the 2025 Hungarian Grand Prix wasn't just a frustrating race for Max Verstappen. It was a wake-up call. It was the kind of weekend that leaves scars, not just because of the points lost, but because of what it reveals internally. The tension on the radio, the statements afterward, and the lack of concrete responses from Red Bull point to a team that, for the first time in a long time, seems to lack complete control of the situation. And that's worrying. In short, Verstappen endured a GP full of obstacles: poor qualifying, a car lacking grip, questionable strategy, tense radios, and, above all, a clear disconnect between the driver's potential and the tools the team provided him. Red Bull, although still competitive, is losing technical leeway compared to its rivals. The statements of its engineers confirm this. Those of Max himself scream it. The most alarming thing is that, beyond the data, what was exposed was an emotional drain. When a driver like Verstappen starts making statements like, "Nothing worked," or "Not even the rain would save me," he's not simply recounting a bad day. He's drawing the line. What seemed like a bad weekend is turning into a pivotal episode for the rest of the championship. Not because of the points at stake, but because of the emotional, technical, and strategic consequences it can bring. And if Formula One has taught us anything, it's that championships are decided as much on the track as in moments of crisis. This, without a doubt, was one of them. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Max should continue to trust Red Bull? Was this just a stumble, or the beginning of a deeper rift? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel.